to Milestones, where we explore educational opportunities for young men and women beyond traditional college, all from a Christ-centered perspective. I'm Lee Bortons, and I'm with my co-host, Amanda Kleist. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023, and we're joined by Chris Alaimo, who works with Bitcoin Magazine. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Did I say your name properly?
Yep, you got it.
That's great. So normally what happens is I ask a lot of logistical questions, and then Amanda starts helping out with kind of summarizing and philosophy and bigger picture things. So why don't you tell your audience what exactly it is you do, and then tell them how in the world you got there.
Yeah, so I work for Bitcoin Magazine, as you mentioned earlier. I am a multimedia producer. So I'm mainly dealing with video, whether it be live streams, whether it be video that's edited, post recording and putting out for podcasts, as well as helping out with our conferences. So we host a gigantic conference. The last 3 years has been in Miami. This upcoming July is going to be in Nashville, but it's called the Bitcoin Conference, normally subsequently by the year. So Bitcoin 2023 was in April of this past year. Now we're throwing it in July of this year. And then I'm also in 29 days going to Amsterdam. So Bitcoin Amsterdam. So expanding the Bitcoin brand and name globally and abroad, and trying to bring Bitcoin people, whether they're developers or business owners and such, together to talk about how to build and grow out this network.
And what's your academic background?
Yeah, so a little bit of a different academic background. I was not in media or editing or video production at all. My background's actually in engineering. I'm a chemical engineer by degree, and was kind of in the engineering field for the better part of 6 years before transitioning over into Bitcoin Magazine and doing editing videos and talking about Bitcoin.
And is that because chemistry was boring, or this was exciting, or like what would make that big of a change?
Yeah, so combination of two. I still do like chemistry, and I do think that there is a lot of fascinating things in the engineering world. I just think that this is the engineering version of money. So I am not a developer or a computer science major by degree, so that's not one of my strong suits, but I found this subject fascinating. So in 2020, I actually spun up my own podcast, ended up doing about 184 episodes. And basically through my proof of work and working on this finance podcast, kind of went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and Bitcoin Magazine liked what I put out and kind of took a chance on me helping them with doing video editing and video producing. So here we are 2 years later at Bitcoin Magazine.
So I wanted to point that out for markers and milestones here. I'm turning my phone off because, so many folks think their child's going to do some sort of education, and then they of course go into a different track. But wouldn't you say that your engineering background prepared you for a lot of things?
Yeah, I definitely would. Engineering's basically boiled down as using math or science to solve complex problems. Money turns out to be a very, very complex problem when you study the root of money, how it was developed, how it was made, central banking, finances, banking in general, stocks, bonds, you name it. And Bitcoin is a solution, or is proposed to be a solution, to try and fix a lot of the, dare I say, fraud or issues that are with the modern banking system that we have laid out. So I always kind of found it fascinating, and there is definitely a very big engineering component to all of it.
But would you have needed to go to college to have the job that you have now?
No, not at all. And actually, a couple of my coworkers didn't go to college or are college dropouts. They're kind of some of the best producers at our company, and they're brilliant in their own minds. So definitely glad to have them and call them coworkers. And I'd say probably they're experts in their industry. No joke. Probably some of the best in the industry in the space.
And I'm guessing you didn't go to college for Bitcoin.
No. Like I said, I went to college for chemical engineering. A couple of my coworkers went for various other things. One of them went for athletic training. Another one went for business, and found out business was felt like they were lying to him. So ultimately, both of my coworkers ended up leaving early and joining Bitcoin Magazine in the midst of the COVID pandemic. And they were able to, kind of pursue their dream and passions working on the Bitcoin space as well.
Yeah, so I guess my joke fell flat. That was the point, is that there is no Bitcoin college. In fact, they're probably just starting now to have programs. And so somebody that's looking for an opportunity in the realm of finance, whether it's Bitcoin or otherwise, how can they go about self-educating and learning more about money and technology and how they're converging in Bitcoin?
Yeah, so there's many great resources, a lot of them at Bitcoin Magazine. So, on our YouTube channel, on our website, we have a lot of articles. Basically, what I would say is however you learn best. So normally some people like watching videos, other people like reading books, some people like podcasts. So we kind of help marry that group as well. So like if you like YouTube, we have a YouTube channel with tons of educational content there. If you like reading articles, we have that. At bitcoinmagazine.com on our store, we sell a bunch of books talking about Bitcoin. So, there's many different ways to learn about it. And then if you come to one of our conferences, we have trying to always include more hands-on ways of learning about Bitcoin, interacting with it and such.
Mm-hmm. And so, besides all the social media, you can watch and watch, but when do you actually cross over to doing something with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What's that process?
Yeah, so crossing over into doing something. So interacting with the Bitcoin protocol, whether it's, I guess not to get too granular, but there's Bitcoin, the base chain, which is notoriously everyone calls it too slow and cumbersome, but it's kind of like a base layer money where there is other layers above it. So basically like the Lightning Network, which is more of an instantaneous settlement for money. So basically you're kind of locking Bitcoin into a contract and you're able to send it at the speed of light, basically between two individuals. So a way to interact and do things would maybe be to download a Bitcoin wallet on your phone and send a little bit of money to yourself or a friend, or you can interact with it with a desktop wallet, or there's even things called cold wallets that actually don't even touch the internet at all.
Okay, so you just lost everybody, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm going to back you up. Isn't a wallet a leather thing you stick in your purse or in your pants?
That I guess it is in the normal fiat world when you're having cash in your wallet, but no, with Bitcoin is an internet money or internet-based money. So the way that you have a wallet would basically be like an app or a desktop icon that you can order to transact money across from two devices, basically, or person to person.
All right, so more people are familiar with apps. So that's a good analogy
definitely
there. Okay, so Amanda, do you have any questions? Because I have a lot for them, but I'll give you a chance here.
So Chris, thank you for talking to us. And you can tell from the shape of our questions, we're interested in the markers and milestones of what made you change things and what made you successful at changing where you started from. So you got fascinated by Bitcoin. What fascinated you first? The accounting, three entry accounting aspects of it, the limited supply aspects of it, and how did you explain it to your grandma?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll back it up. So what got me fascinated in Bitcoin was definitely in everything was going crazy in March of 2020. Obviously, kind of opens your eyes up when you're kind of stuck at home or things are much slower. So I was able to dive into money, mainly looking into stocks and bonds and things like that, and then kind of stumbled upon the Bitcoin thing. I guess what fascinated me about Bitcoin was I heard many people referring to it as ultimate scarcity. And the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin is time, your finite time on this planet. And I thought that was fascinating. I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, there's 21 million Bitcoin. I can have one apple, there's one apple is smaller than 21 million. But basically when you dive into it, Bitcoin is programmatically determined that there only will ever be 21 million Bitcoin. And, there's always a way when in supply and demand, simple supply and demand curves, that if the price of an apple got to be, $10, $20 an apple, whatever it is, they can always plant more apples, grow more apples, or find a way to produce more of any commodity or basically anything in the world, whether, anything in the world, basically, whether it's gold, whether it's silver, whether it's paper money that they just print more of. So I got really fascinated with learning that there's only ever going to be 21 million. And it's fascinating that you said that there's triple entry accounting for Bitcoin. So it's not just, between two banks, which is normally double entry accounting or a single ledger where you're holding yourself. Triple entry accounting is two counterparties and then a third one, meaning anyone can verify the transactions between two parties themselves. So that's kind of the triple entry accounting of it all. But yeah, kind of went down the rabbit hole of money in probably March of 2020 and kind of stumbled upon Bitcoin in June of that year as well.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if the Bitcoin experience for young men in particular is similar to 25 years ago where young men were very interested in gaming, and their parents were like, what are you doing with your time? And it turned out some of them were geniuses. And so, it's happening again. So go ahead, Amanda, I interrupted you.
Well, I did want to follow up. How did you explain it to your grandma? Because some of our people are going to need that type of explanation to understand what you just told us.
Yeah, Chris, on our previous podcast you were on, those people knew a lot about Bitcoin. This audience doesn't.
Yeah, no worries. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a digital money, very similar to how someone would interact with, when you have a bank account, whether it's on a website or an app, a banking app, you see the balance in your account. You don't actually have a pile of dollars on your phone or, on your desk, unless you withdraw that money. Bitcoin is a digital representation of money. And the way that you can transact it is basically by using apps or, icons on your desktop in order to transmit money from peer to peer. The advantage of Bitcoin versus fiat money, which is cash or US dollars or euros or yen or whatever currency in the world you want, no one can print more of them. So behind the scenes or underneath the basis of our monetary system is a lot of times the central banks of these various currencies can print more dollars than there are to fill the liabilities of the government or spending. And gold or silver used to be the basis of money for thousands of years. And basically it was too slow or too cumbersome to send large amounts of monies between countries or states or individuals, that basically in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto helped invent Bitcoin and basically distribute to the world. So it's the digital abstraction of, a lot of people call it a digital gold basis of the internet. So I don't know if that's a good explanation or not.
I think you got us started.
Smart grandma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lee, what questions do you have?
Sorry. Yeah. So, is there anything, you talked about the conference in your magazine at Bitcoin. Are you doing something like a Bitcoin online course? Is there some way our young folks could learn about, or even anybody can learn about more about it through you guys?
Yeah, definitely. So, so obviously we have the magazine. We do a quarterly publication of the magazine. I actually have the latest one here of the withdrawal issue. So basically, there was a bunch of bank failures. One of them is showing First Republic Bank and their failure and talking about how Bitcoin can protect you from that. But also we have a thing called 21 days. So it's a course that we send a simple email in 2 to 5 minutes that basically describes an aspect of Bitcoin. And it's 21 days long. So you receive one every day for 21 days. And in that process, you learn about the basics of Bitcoin. So like I said, it's a 2 to 5 minute read for 21 days straight.
Oh, and so I bet that's popular because it's short. So let's say we go through that, then what would be a next step?
Yeah, so next step, there is a great YouTube, not just ours at Bitcoin Magazine, but there's a great YouTuber called BTC Sessions, or Ben is his first name, but he goes by BTC Sessions on YouTube. And he describes anything you want to know about how to use any aspect of Bitcoin. If you're like, what hardware wallet to get, be by BTC Sessions on his YouTube channel, or what is Bitcoin, or how does it work, or how does it operate? Similar on Bitcoin Magazine, but he's probably one of the best in how-to guides and taking you step by step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So besides, like I'm trying to say, if I really want to dig into Bitcoin itself. So Amanda, do you have any other questions? Because
philosophically, the love of money is the root of all evil, if we take something from the Bible. And so how do you get fascinated but not fall in love with money? And is that something you think about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, to be honest. So while money is mentioned in the Bible a lot there, and it's the root of all evil, a lot of times, the love of it is the root of all evil. But a lot of times you can see when the love of it is basically either fraud or doing things to basically hamper or steal money from other people. So I kind of feel that fiat money, or the money system that we have right now, is stealing people's money and in theory stealing their time and hurting them and their loved ones. So I guess I will say I like Bitcoin, and I guess some people would say I obsess over it. But the thing that Bitcoin allows me to do is buy back my time. So I understand, I've done a lot of research or study into it, that I am able to buy back my time with, me and my fiance and, hopefully our future kids one day, that it's basically by me studying this asset and basically learning it, that I was able to basically put my assets or my money where my mouth is and put it into this asset that is Bitcoin, and then able to, go about the world. And I know that cryptographically and digitally, it'll be stored and protected. So I'm able to buy back my time in a way where fiat money, you always need to make more. They're printing more of it, and they're kind of abstracting the layer of money that prevents me from, I either have to work harder, get a second job, get a raise, change jobs, move, like do different things in order to try and make more money, not to be greedy, but in the way that it's developed, that it steals time and resources away from my family. And like I said, the only thing that's more scarce than Bitcoin in the world is our time on this planet. So it's a way of buying back my time through this mechanism that is money.
Yeah.
I appreciated that answer. My follow-up as an end user who's not fascinated by the mechanics is it's not as easy to use in my daily spending where I spend currency. It's not as easy to use, and there's transaction fees that I see in some of these things. So you have a thing, a fiat, not a fiat, a digital currency that so far I don't see a use case that is made it adoptable into the general population as easy as they are doing many other things. So my question out of that is, when do you see us getting there? Because that's what's going to change for mass adoption as opposed to niche adoption.
Yeah, so I think Bitcoin there was a thing called the block size war in 2017, and basically was talking about the scaling issues. And a lot of people are kind of stuck in the mentality of 2017, saying that Bitcoin's not that easy to use, it's slow, it's hampered. There's things that are being built out. So like the Lightning there is like an abstraction above it. Basically, like think of the internet. When you go to, Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or Mozilla Firefox, whatever browser you use, Safari, doesn't matter, you are on a portal to the internet. But then if you want to go to facebook.com or amazon.com, you're going to that website. So think of Bitcoin as the basis, and then Lightning, or the Lightning layer, as a layer on top of it. So it's kind of like how when you open up a browser, is kind of like, imagine that as base layer Bitcoin. And then when you go to a website, that's like, the second abstraction of the internet. And then there's, all the connections that work with that. So many people say that the fiat system is more easy, but we've seen inflation run rampant for the last 3 years. So, okay, so you have to quit your job, you have to sell your house and downsize, you need to get a raise of at least 10% because inflation's running hotter than that. Like, is that an easier system, or is it like the government or credit card companies or banks portray this as like it's easier to do this? Like, is it easier to be in jail? Like, they give you 3 square meals, you have a bed, you can read. Like, I don't have to go out and work for my food. Is that easier? Because I think that they abstract things to their own benefit to say things that are easier to put you in your own jail cell. That's just my opinion. Part of the reason that I'm into Bitcoin. Yes, it's more difficult, but at what form? At your cost of your own sanity, your own freedom, slavery? Like, I guess that's kind of the way that I view it.
The analogy we were using, and then I'll hand it back to Lee. You gave me time. And so until
Yeah.
that time equation balances out for the general non-techie user, that's going to be something that is a negative impact on the adoption rate. But Lee, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what Chris is saying, though, is the time to learn how to use it and then use it regularly is a lot less than the time it takes to change a job or something like that. So we get enamored with what we're used to, which is why we have the markers and milestones, because everyone's used to sending their kids to college, and we're trying to say, no, can you think about some other things to do? And thinking about other things to do is actually harder, but in the long run, is it really? Right. And so that's, what we're trying to point out, that just because you're used to it doesn't mean it really is easier or better. And so Chris seems to feel like Bitcoin has more than made up for any technological difficulties. I think
especially
that once
with the Lightning Network. He keeps mentioning that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's such a good analogy too, because I don't want to pay or be involved with the internet. Don't want to do that. But you give me an app that's useful on the internet, and now I'll pay and now I'll be involved. And so that's kind of the analogy you're making, that we're not quite there yet for the general public, but I do know globally we're much more advanced than most of our listeners would know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Amanda and I are quite familiar with what's going on, but not very many people are, as you know.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So it sounds like Bitcoin's like when we opened the garage door of Bill Gates in the 70s and looked in and said, what are those kids doing there? And so many people missed the boat and didn't get in on the ground floor. So Amanda and I just keep wanting to talk to people about what's going on, to encourage our audience to look into things they are unfamiliar with. So I thank you for your time. And I just really appreciate you being on a few of our shows now. You're always very interesting. Do you want people to get a hold of you, or you just want them to go to Bitcoin? Like, what's a URL?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Chris Alaimo 6. You can email me at calamo6@gmail.com. You can go to the Bitcoin Magazine website or YouTube channel, and there's a lot of explanations and videos there about Bitcoin and how it works. So yeah, I guess whatever works for your listeners. I appreciate them listening, and I'm always willing to help anyone that wants to learn more about it.
Thank you very much. You should offer some seminars. I think people would flock to them.
For sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Goodbye, Emma. Bye, Amanda.
Thank you, Chris. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
Great
Nice
day.
talking. Have a good one.
Bye.